Maple cookies, simple and delicious.
Let's see what's cooking. It's time for Yo-Yo Max 12.
Hello everyone. This is the cookie part of the recipe, and it's basically a maple flavored sugar cookie. That's a half a cup of softened butter and a half a cup of white granulated sugar, and I'm beating those things together until they are light and fluffy. Then I'm adding in 1 egg and a teaspoon of vanilla extract. Then blend that in, and then finally we're going to add in the flavoring for this cookie, which is a 1/4 cup of pure maple syrup. Then blend that in, and then now we'll add in some dry ingredients, a teaspoon of baking powder, a 1/4 teaspoon of salt, and 2 cups of all-purpose flour. And I'm adding the flour in 2 parts, 1 cup at a time, and blending after each addition. And you will end up with a quite sticky, soft dough. Now at this point, once it's all blended in, you have a couple of different options of how you want to make these cookies. You can just take portions of dough, roll it in a ball between your hands, put it on a greased or silicone lined cookie sheet, and just flatten them down a little bit. And to make them a little extra pretty, I used a fork just to make little hash mark patterns on the tops of them. That just gives them a little bit of texture, and it'll give you some texture to hold that glaze we're going to put on once they're baked. These don't spread very much, so I suggest you do flatten the cookies down a bit. Or if you don't want to just plain round cookies, you can make maple leaf shaped cookies, which is what I thought was prettier. So I put the dough, and I'm going to roll it out between sheets of parchment paper. So I flatten the dough with my hands first, put another sheet of parchment on top, and I'm using a rolling pin to roll it out evenly to about 1/4 of an inch thickness all the way around. Now take the cookie cutter of your choosing. I'm using a maple leaf cookie cutter, and just going to cut out some shapes. Now this dough is very soft and very sticky, so what I'm going to do is I'm just going to cut out the shapes, and I'm just going to gently make sure that I go all the way down to the parchment paper when I'm pressing down. And I'm going to leave those maple leaf shapes in the dough the way they are right now. And I'm going to take this whole sheet, once they're cut out, and I'm going to put them in the refrigerator or the freezer until the dough is very firm. I put mine in my chest freezer because I had a lot of room in there, and I left it in there for about 35 minutes or so, and till the dough became very firm. And you'll see right here that once the dough is very firm, it's very easy to get those maple leaf shapes out of that background dough without breaking them off, breaking any pieces, and they're really easy to handle. And I put those on a cookie sheet about 1 inch apart because they don't spread very much, and bake them for 350 degrees for about 12-15 minutes until the edges are just the tiniest bit brown. Then you're going to let them cool. Now, for one of the best parts of this cookie, we're going to make the glaze. That's a cup of powdered sugar. To that, we'll add 2 tablespoons of maple syrup. And I thought that maybe the maple syrup would be enough liquid to get a nice glaze, but it wasn't. It wasn't quite liquidy enough, so I added in a couple tablespoons of milk to this. And you basically add enough of the milk to get the texture of glaze that you like. You could make this very thick and put it like a frosting on top of the cookie, or you can make it super runny so you can just pour it over the whole cookie and it'll drip off the edges, and it'll make a nice thin coating on top of your cookie. I did something kind of in between. So you can do whatever you like as far as the texture of glaze that you'd like. So here are my cookies that they're on the cookie sheet. They don't have to be completely cool because it doesn't really matter because this glaze is not temperature dependent. And then for some of them, I just kind of poured it over and thought it would just kind of flow over the edges of the cookies. This was a little bit too thick, so what I ended up doing is I ended up taking a spoon and just spreading it all the way to the tips of the cookies for this batch. The next batch, I made the glaze a little bit runnier so that it flowed a little bit easier. So here I am just using a spoon to push it to the edges of the cookies. And the excess drips off. I have it on a rack, as you can see. And if you want, you can scrape up that excess and give it a good stir, add a little bit more liquid if you need to, and then you can use that again on other cookies. And here's an example of the large cookie and the smaller ones once the glaze is set. The glaze will set once you let your cookies sit a little bit. The glaze will get quite dry and you'll be able to pick them up and actually stack the cookies without them being sticky. The small cookies are kind of crunchy and the larger cookies are kind of a little bit soft in the middle. They are a simple sugar cookie with a very lovely maple flavor with that maple frosting on top. Really great cookie, be perfect with a cup of tea. These cookies would be a great addition to I'm going to use a C word here. I know it's early, it's July when I'm posting this, a Christmas cookie platter. It would also be good for Canada Day. Here are a couple more recipes that you might enjoy. Here are maple cinnamon waffle cookies that are made in a waffle iron, which makes them kind of cool. And I also have this amazing maple syrup waffle cake. Thank you so much for watching.